The big question on top of India tonight is whether or not markets and the commodities brace for another shakeup. We're asking this because the Israeli administration has ordered an evacuation from Rafah city in Gaza, and this as it prepares for an assault in the region, an assault by Israel. The Gazans have been asked by the Israelis to move to a refugee camp in Khan Younis. At least a lakh, as far as the number of people go, 1 lakh people are said to be displaced because of this kind of evacuation. Truce talks between Israel and Hamas, they're still in limbo. No early signs of a breakthrough just yet. Last night, at least 12 people have been killed in Israeli airstrikes, and 3 Israeli soldiers have been killed in an attack by Hamas as well. Let's understand the implications of this, both political and economic, when you're looking at the commodities and currency markets. And for that, former Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar is with us, along with Gnanasekar Thiagarajan. He is director at COMMTRENDZ Research. Great to have you both, gentlemen, and thank you for making the time for joining us on India Tonight. Mr. Sajjanhar, to you first. The Israelis, they're calling this a limited operation in the southern city of Rafah. Despite the US President Biden, clearly showing no interest in supporting Israeli assaults on Gaza, the attacks seem to continue. Is this a clear sign that Israel is not giving up its fight against Hamas, despite this pressure that's been building up from the US and UN not to go ahead with these kind of strikes, politically and militarily? My question is this an escalation in the war that has now lasted 7 months so far?
Yeah, thank you very much, Vikram. Yes, you're very right. I think tomorrow it marks the completion of the 7th month as far as the attack by Hamas on Israel, southern Israel is concerned. And it doesn't, the fighting doesn't show any signs of abating or coming down in intensity. We have seen that as far as Israel is concerned, there has been very sustained pressure from the United States, from Europe, from, in fact, across the world that Israel should stop its attacks on Gaza. As far as, that there should be a ceasefire, even as far as the UN Security Council is concerned, they have taken a resolution, they have adopted a resolution that there should be ceasefire. There have been talks that have been going on. The United States, Qatar, Egypt, they have been in involved in this negotiation, but still nothing seems to have worked out. And Israel has made it very clear to the United States, to the United Nations, and to the world community in general that till they are able to decimate, completely annihilate the Hamas leadership, that they are not going to stop, because stopping midway would not really achieve the objectives for which they had started. So definitely, as far as politically and militarily, it appears that this is going to continue. Maybe the last point I could make is that, the only country really that has some sort of significant leverage on Israel is the United States. And the United States, both for its image as far as globally it is concerned, also in West Asia it is concerned, and also for domestic political considerations, because whether it is the Arab Americans in the country, or it is the left, the progressive, the democratic left, they are all pressurizing Mr. Biden that he should apply more pressure on Israel.
But now,
particularly in view of the elections that are coming in.
Exactly, and that is a crucial mix in this entire equation, the presidential elections in the US. But now that mediators have not been able to crack the ceasefire and a possible hostage release deal further one, this evacuation order by the Israelis to Gazans now stands. So how is this geopolitical tension that we are now seeing again rise in West Asia, how is that likely to play on the commodity markets? Mr. Thiagarajan, I wanted your perspective on this because I was looking at some of the commodities. Over the last 3 months, silver has gone up more than 20%. Gold has moved up around 13 to 14%. And crude oil, I was looking at Brent, has gone up in the last 3 months, up about 6.5%. Even aluminium has gone up around 14-odd%. So looking at the way the commodity markets have been moving over the last 3 months itself, what does it tell you, this kind of escalation? How is this likely to shake it up?
Well, basically, the oil markets are the first to get affected because the Middle East tensions are going to have a direct impact on the oil markets. But like you rightly pointed out, Brent has only gone up by around 5 to 6% because as much as it went up, it's also corrected quite a bit in the last week or so. However, the gold and silver, which is supposed to be a safe haven in uncertain times like this, especially geopolitical uncertainties, has done extremely well, and investors have gone towards the safety of bullion, which is both gold and silver in particular, because silver has a sort of underplayed so far when it is compared to gold. So this potential sort of an escalation in tension is likely to have a very positive impact on gold and silver, but on oil markets itself, I don't see that happening, because unless the Hormuz Straits, where Iran controls, unless there is some direct attacks on any of the ships and transport, till then, I think the oil markets will sort of remain in a broad range with a mild positive bias. So there's more likelihood that the precious metal markets are going to find strong support, already corrected quite a bit from the peaks. So I think in all, if one were to look at the commodities, there's a lot of doubts whether the oil markets will start rising, because that will lead to inflation rising also, and that will create problems for the elections, the U.S. elections, because they don't want voters to have an inflationary kind of issue going forward. So the U.S. would want oil prices to remain stable.
Yes.
I think the market is sort of tired of news flows from Israel and Iran.
Yes.
And unless this Hormuz Straits is directly involved, it's not going to have an impact on oil.
It's not going to have a major impact. Mr. Sajjanhar, do weigh in on this. Typically, how geopolitical tensions pan out. This time in West Asia, and we have been in this suspended state where a lot of geopolitical tensions, notwithstanding the Russia-Ukraine war as well, all of that has been playing out. Much of it is getting factored into the markets. How differently is the conflict in West Asia playing out when you look at the action in equity markets, especially our own markets in India as well?
Question. And of course, if you look at the markets as they have behaved, as we were talking, it is 7 months. And the price the increase in price as far as energy is concerned, oil is concerned, that has been there, but not as much as one would have expected at the beginning of the conflict. One had thought that, the oil is going to shoot up beyond 100, maybe go to 120, 140, 150. That was the prognosis at that particular point of time. But we have seen that as far as the inflationary pressures are concerned, by and large on energy, they have been contained. The reason for this is that the war has really stayed between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. There might have been sort of, from Hezbollah, there have been sort of attacks. There have been attacks from Houthis. They have been particularly in the Red Sea and Bab el-Mandeb Strait. So that has impacted the shipping there. And the shipping has gone, rather than using the Red Sea and the Suez Canal, it has gone around the Cape of Good Hope. So that has increased insurance prices, that has increased shipping prices, that has increased the pressure on supply chains. But it has not really had much of an impact on energy. So if you look at the impact, because you referred to the Russia-Ukraine conflict, that conflict is also taking place in a very limited space.
Correct.
But the impact
but
of
the,
that
but
on
the possibility
food,
of
energy,
escalation,
and fertilizer.
Mr. Sajjanhar, when we talk about escalation, that is the distinct possibility. When Iran came into the picture, suddenly we thought there will be a conflagration, and that fear really, spooks the markets. At this time as well, it's not like that possibility doesn't exist.
No, you are very right, Vikram. But, that is what everyone was thinking right from the word go, that the whole thing is going to escalate. But we have seen that none of the countries is interested in escalation. And Iran also wants the whole thing to escalate, but it doesn't want to be involved itself.
Right.
So, that is why it has been sort of, provoking and inciting the Arab Street, whether it is in Jordan, it is in Lebanon, it is in Egypt. But
Yes.
none of those countries is willing to take the bait.
Correct. But this is also happening, Mr. Thiagarajan, at a time that the US economy is seen slowing down. Interest rates are seen higher now for longer, going by those hawkish statements by the Fed chair at the end of the last FOMC meeting. Even some softness now in their jobs market in the US. So do you see the US dollar coming under pressure over the next few quarters, looking at this kind of rise in geopolitical tensions, at least in West Asia right now?
Yep. Beyond the tensions, I think it's also the rising debt levels in the US and the overall economy as a whole, because the job numbers that came was very negative, meaning it came much below market expectation, which means the possibility of a rate cut will be revived again, because just a month back, when most of the US economic data was coming in quite strong, the hopes of rate cuts faded away. So that's reviving now. Also, I believe that the Federal Reserve is a very neutral sort of a body. It doesn't get influenced politically by elections or anything of that sort. But when you look at history, whenever US elections have happened, the dollar has weakened quite a bit, and generally investors tend to stay away from the dollar, or they tend to take a negative view of the dollar because of the uncertainty politically. And also the overall situation that US possibly escaped the recession some time back.
Yes.
But those stocks are again back with all these negative numbers. So clearly the dollar is going to be under pressure, both pre-elections and post-elections.
We'll keep watching the commodity space and the currency markets. And indeed, what we are seeing on Wall Street right now is also in play. Mr. Sajjanhar and Mr. Thiagarajan, thank you very much for joining us with your perspective on the subject, and we'll keep connecting with you. But pleasure having you with us.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.